Hi, my name is Robert. This video is designed to give you step-by-step detailed instructions on completing the task at hand. Please read the comments in the About section of this video. It has valuable information and updates. My YouTube channel has a disclaimer video that I encourage you to watch. And please like, share, and subscribe. I hope you found what you're looking for. Thank you very much for watching. This video I'm going to show you how to rebuild a ETM on the 99, 2000, and 2001 Volvos. This is an original ETM sticker on here, and on this side of this ETM it has the potentiometer in there that you can replace with a contactless system that should make these ETMs last a lot longer. Now ETMs in general have three problems. The main one, I think 80% of the time, the potentiometer gets worn, and then the ETM starts hunting for the good spot on the potentiometer. They call that the throttle position sensor inside there, and it makes your idle rough and lots of running issues. So this modification is for that issue. The other two issues may be just a total failure or some other kind of electrical problem or software problem in them. You'll need to replace them and get them reprogrammed. Mechanic told me that the white sticker modules are 99 in early 2000. Halfway through 2000 and 2001, 2002, they went to these yellow stickers. If you don't have any service records showing that it's been replaced within the last 10 years or 5 years, it's prone to going bad with that potentiometer. If you have one that has been modified or repaired by Modex, it'll have their sticker on there letting you know that it's been rebuilt. Likely has a lifetime warranty. Not sure if that's transferable from one owner to another. You may want to get a new throttle body gasket. I see a lot of those damaged somehow. People are trying to install that throttle body blind, and they often damage the gasket, and that's also a reason why some of those things don't run correctly after people've done the PCV or pulled them and reinstalled them. We got these throttle body modification kits from this page on eBay called Circuit Solutions. They have actually a full kit that is, I think, better than the last one I dealt with. I like this kit. It comes with instructions on a thumb drive, so you actually get a free 1 gig thumb drive with it. You have the throttle body part that you got to solder in. You got wire, loom, clip to help secure it. You have a gasket, and you have a new throttle body back plate in case you bend or destroy yours removing it, or don't want to remove it, or don't want to reuse it rather. So this is a nice full kit. I really like this one. $125. This is a 2000 V70 all-wheel drive turbo edition, and it has an ETM that I believe is starting to have issues. The idle is bouncing around, jumping up and down. It's not throwing a ETM code that I can find with my scanner, but it may have a code in there that it takes a better Volvo scanner to find. Oh, we start the car, the idle's rough, and as you can see, there's an ETS light right there, a couple other lights on. So we're going to do the ETM mod, see if it fixed that ETS problem. You can hear it idle and rough. You can see the idle jumping around on it. So we ordered the contactless ETM throttle position module, and we're going to try to modify this one so that it will be repaired and have the contactless system in it instead of the one that goes with the potentiometer. So the first thing I did was pull the fresh air intake tube The air intake tube is off. I'm going to remove this clamp here and remove the, I think it's a 7mm down there, to remove this tube here, this intake, throttle intake tube. Also, I need to unplug that plug there and the other plug there, make sure I don't damage them, so I can pull this tube out. That vacuum line there will simply pull off. Sometimes I push it off with a screwdriver. I use my hook nose, needle nose pliers to get the vacuum hose off. I got both of those lines, electrical connectors disconnected. I believe that clamp is loose. This clamp is loose on top, so now I'm gonna work this off of the throttle bar if it's loose enough, and it comes out this way. So once you get it out, you look down in the tube, see if there's oil down there. If there is, you want to rinse that out with a carburetor cleaner. I reach my hand through this way, down under the throttle body, and I undo the 4 10mm bolts on the bottom of the throttle body. I don't know how to tell you any easier, but there's 4 bolts on there. You take them loose till they about fall out, and then you let the throttle body drop down. You unplug this plug to the throttle body there, and then you can maneuver the throttle body out this way. Sometimes, if the throttle body's never been removed, it'll be trapped under the starter, and you may have to loosen the bracket on the back of the starter to get that throttle body out of there. That's the bracket there on the back of the starter. You want to maneuver that out. Looks like somebody took this nut loose. That needs to be tightened back up. Somebody took that loose, pulling that wire out from there before, and they didn't put it back. So I'm going to tighten that bolt on the back of that starter. Alright, after you get all 4 screws out, there they are there. They're long. The ATM will drop down. You pull it out this way. You unplug it, and there you have it. So when it's in there, you got these 4 screws in the bottom of it. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. So you got to feel for them, pull them out. You want to get that gasket off the back of the intake, or make sure it stayed there or whatever. There's a gasket up there. It needs to be there when you put the ATM back together. If for some reason it's missing, it could cause you vacuum leaks. So you need to know that it's there, or that you install a new one. It does have the part number on there. That 8644347 number is on the list of the eBay listing that sells one of these type of modification modules. This is the box we got. This is the contents of the package. The process for doing this is crack open the throttle body, this part here. Open this side, remove this. Your replacement will go on this side. It's got 3 pins. There's 3 pins soldered in here that you have to take loose. Then there's a shaft in here you have to take and cut that shaft loose. Then there's a wire on this that you see wrapped around here. That wire goes along here and is soldered on the 2nd pin on this side. So we're going to go ahead and knock this out. The first thing we got to do is clean this off a little bit so we don't get messy. I'm going to spray it down with some oil eater, wash it off, dry it. Probably best to use throttle body cleaner, so I'll see if I have that handy. And then we'll cut this open. It has glue along the ridge of this aluminum plate on this side. So this stuff feels kind of like a silicone or some kind of dough in there. I'm going along the edge with a razor blade to clean this stuff out, and then I'm going to try to pry this open without bending it. Take your time, work around this, drag out as much sealant as you can, and start prying around it. Take your time because you don't want to bend this up get that pried around the whole way around and lift it off. Alright, so I used a knife to help me pry around it with the screwdriver. Nice and easy, and I'm about to lift it off. So this thing has a nice bead of sealant around it to stop moisture or anything from getting in there. You want it to be the same way when you do it. Seal it back up. Once you have it open with the connector on top, this is the turbo one. This is the side that has the one wire you got to desolder and solder the wire to. This is the side that has the 3 wires that you need to release and solder to. So next I'm going to try to cut some of this sealant back so that I can see if I can get at those solder joints. And then I'm probably going to clean all of the sealant out from the track and reseal that with some kind of silicone or RTV sealant to make it waterproof again. Alright, so I scraped all this out with these tools here, stiff screwdriver, small. That probably took me about 10 minutes. I'm going to scrape a little bit out this side just to find that second pin that I need to solder that to. I'm not going to scrape all this out. This stuff kind of seems like sealant that you would put for window caulking, maybe 25-year quality. They just filled it up and sealed it like that so that it wouldn't get any water in there and start corroding things. I'm going to try to use this bit to grind out the sealant on that thing. So I'm going to see if that works and go from there. Yeah, see that? I'm going to use that to cut this out. Alright, I dug out the other side where there's probably 5 pins, and I'm going to take the solder loose on the second pin and separate the wire, because you have to separate it and then wire that additional wire down to here. Then I'm going to break the solder loose on these 3 and unscrew these 4, I believe they're T20s. Take this off from those things there. I removed the 4 T20s out of there, and now I'm going to pry that open. Let me pry that off and work on getting the solder loose from those contacts in there. I pried this up. When it popped off, it broke those 3 little solder points. So I'm going to try to clean those off. With the Dremel style tool, it's real easy to cut that shaft off right above the threads. However, make sure you have a couple of cutting discs because they're easy to break. Every time I went to back off to take a second look, I didn't lift that thing up right and it broke right off. Also, you could use a sanding pad or something to sand off the sharp edges. I put a rag there in an attempt to catch a lot of the metal debris, so you could spray that out with some high pressure air or something to try to get most of that debris out of there. And I'm sure the tip of this thing is hot, so don't try to grab that with your finger after you cut it off. It'll likely burn you. So now that you have that cut off, dust that out the best you can and take that nut off. Next thing I need to do is disconnect the wire from the sensor. That's looking like it's going to be a task for me. So I tried to separate it with heating it up with the solder gun. That didn't work. So I'm going to try prying it apart with my little screwdriver here. See how that works. Prying it with the tip of this screwdriver, I was able to break it loose. So now I'm going to move that pin down away from this to make sure those things don't touch. They're not supposed to touch. Then I'm going to install a new sensor, solder these 3 wires up here, and solder that additional wire down here on this second pin. After the nut's off, you go ahead and you slide your magnet on there. It has a notch in it, so it only goes on one way. You put a little Loctite on your nut and screw your nut on because you don't want it coming loose. I got the magnet secure in there, and you want to make sure your throttle body still functions, and this is a good time to clean it out with throttle body cleaner, nothing else. Now I'm going to set the replacement thing on there, make sure the contacts line up, screw it down, and then solder it in. Make sure your rubber gasket is in place on this new part when you set it down in there. And when you screw it down, you still want to make sure your throttle body moves freely. After that's screwed down, you want to make sure your throttle body still moves freely. That lets you know that you cut enough of that shaft off. Flip it back on its side. You see where your contacts are lining up in there. You want to solder those contacts together, and then bring this wire over here and solder it to that second pin there. How I do my solder, make sure it's working right, I put the pin on one side and I let the solder touch the other side, and when that pin is hot enough, that solder will suck through toward the solder iron. Make sure you have solid soldering, because if you don't, you'll be pulling this stuff back apart. Now I'm going to fill this up with this silicone, 30-minute weatherproofing silicone, and then I'm going to get this wire laid down, and then I'm going to silicone the lid back on here. So I'm going to pull out some of this old sealant and get this cap back on here in a nice weatherproof way. I straightened out the edges of the lid as best I could so it can pop back in place. Now I'm going to put a bead of sealant around there and press this on there, get it as closed as tight as I can, and then get this thing back installed on the vehicle. Due to the fact that this thing was only modified and it hasn't been swapped from one vehicle to another, it should not need to be programmed and it should work fine. So let me go find this gasket and prepare to put this thing back on. Alright, so what I do now, I normally have the gasket on top of it, and I take the two screws on the driver's side, stick the screws through the gasket, hold the two screws with my fingers, and I guide the thing in. So let me show you how I do that. Put this gasket on like this, get the screws started, then put the other two in. I guide it in place, and then I start to screw the two screws in with the gasket in place so that the gasket doesn't fall off. Right now the gasket is stuck to the intake manifold on this one, so I'm going to leave that there. So I have the two screws through like that. I guide the throttle body through the space on this driver's side. When I feel it drop on the holes in place, I screw the screw in a little bit with my finger, spinning my finger around like that to get it started. That way I don't lose the gasket, it stays in place, and I get that thing sealed on both of those screws. Then I do the other two screws. So let me get this started. Okay, I have two screws started. I reached down this side with this hand and felt until I felt the holes in the screws lined up, and then I started the screw, and with the other hand started the other screw. If you want to, you could move the oil dipstick out of the way. It helps a little bit, but it's not really necessary. So next I'm going to start the two front screws on the passenger side screws. Then I'm going to tighten all four of those screws up, plug it in. Man, that throttle body went on fast and easy, putting two screws through it like I had it with my fingers and screwing that thing in from this driver's side. So that'll be a easy way for you to get that thing in with the gasket not falling off. Now I'm going to put the tube in. There's two ways I think you can do this tube. You can run it up there with the clamp this way, pointing to the driver's side from the back, or you can point it to the front like it normally is and try to hit it that way from the front. It seemed to be a little easier for me to get the last one off that was like this on this coupe. So I'm going to put this one on like this. After I clean out this tube a little, it had some oil in it. Surprisingly, the coupe didn't have no oil in it at all. I have all the 4 bolts in, holding the throttle body to the bottom of the intake. I zip tied the wires to the wire harness there. Now I'm going to connect the intake. I have the intake tube on. I have the 2 connectors there in place. I have this vacuum line reconnected. I can see down there that I did get that intake tube on right with the clamp on. So it's time to hook the battery up and start the car. See how it works. Let me go ahead, fire up, see if she starts, see if the check engine light's still on. And the idle's moved out a lot quicker. Let me take her for a drive, see how she runs. I'm coming up to the first corner. It's running and idling very well. So I'm gonna take it for about a mile or two around on the highway and bring it back, see how it goes. No more check engine light. I found a couple of vacuum lines that I think were loose and not connected. So this car ought to be good to go for a while. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.